Good morning, everyone. Good morning from Chester, UK. I am Gözde Türktarhan, and I'm here to host the last micro MBA session with my colleague, Dr. Trevor Omori. Hello, Trevor. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Gusday. Good morning, everyone. And indeed, it's such a wonderful opportunity to be part of this last session of the micro MBA. And I think it's going to be a very interesting one. The grand finale, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Grand finale. That's right.
Yeah.
So, in micro MBA certificate program, we had totally 8 sessions, and we will be having the last one today. This is the last one by Dr. Alex Fenton. I would like to bring the slides to the stage.
Good.
So I can see that we are having more online participants. So can you please type in the comments and let us know where you are joining us from? Because I know from previous sessions we have many different participants, many participants from different parts of the world. So we will be looking to hear from you. If you type your location and your name on the comments, we will be happy to read your message. And yeah, as I mentioned, today we're having the last session. So welcome to the session 8. Today, again, we will have a very insightful session. But before we talking about and introducing the session, I briefly mention again that as the Chester Business School, we are awarded as the best business school by the Times Higher Education. So I'm so happy to be a part of Chester Business School, and I know that my colleagues mentioned this in the previous session, but I believe this is very important, and I'm happy to mention it one more time, Trevor.
Absolutely.
And I am reading the messages from the participants. Vishal saying hello. Hello, Vishal.
Hello, Vishal.
Yeah, we also have Maxwell from Kenya. That's amazing. Aruba from Manchester. We have a LinkedIn user from London.
Very good.
Another LinkedIn user from Manchester. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your message. During the session, if you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to type your message in the comments section, so Alex can answer, or us can answer. We can answer your questions.
And I think we also have Vishal from India, from Torat, India. Yeah, Vishal Torat from India.
Yes. Yeah. I just saw his message. Yeah. Good morning to you all. So yes, this is the last session of Micro MBA. We already, as you know, we are recording the sessions. So if you missed the sessions, you can always go back and watch them complete the quizzes, take the quiz, and receive your online certificate. And in order to do that, you need to register. Am I right, Trevor? Yeah.
Absolutely. You must actually register. If you've not yet registered, please go ahead and register. There's the time for you to register. If you've already registered and you've not been able to engage with the materials we've provided in the last 8 weeks, please, by all means, you can go back, watch all of the sessions from October through until today. So you'll be able to engage with some of those materials. And please, those of you, if you've got friends or your connection, your network who's still thinking of joining or registering for the micro MBA, you must register and complete quiz 1. So what you need to do, quiz 1 is already there, and we're very pleased that those who've already completed quiz 1, they all did really, really well. We have people getting up to 90%, 80%, 100%, so which is very good. So please go ahead and complete quiz 1, but you would have watched the sessions to help you complete quiz 1. And as soon as you complete quiz 1, quiz 2 is going to be ready in a few days. Very soon we're going to make quiz 2 ready after today's session. Then you can as well go back and complete quiz 2. So you must register, complete quiz 1, complete quiz 2, as well as there'll be an exit survey, which we'll talk about later, and then you'll be able to get yourself the digital certificate. So, but the point here is, it's not too late now for you to go back and register. If you've been very busy, take out some time. I think the presentations from the experts is about less than 20 to 30 minutes. So that shouldn't take much of your time. Engage with those sessions, take notes, and then that will help you complete the quizzes. And also, if you go to the next slide, you're going to see the certificate there. So this is a certificate that you'll be able to print. And as well, you also get a digital certificate at the end. But to be able to get this, the certificate, you would have completed both quizzes. So when you complete both quizzes, then you get a certificate, the digital certificate. You can print them, put them in your office. You can put this information again as part of your CV. But as a CPD, or if there are ways you want to show that you've engaged with the tester session. And please also go out on social media, tag us, tag Chester Business School, tag the MBA program, tag University of Chester to say you've completed the micro MBA tester session. So that's it. So thank you very much. And we're looking forward to you. And if you think there's anything you're struggling with in terms of, you can't access materials, we've received emails from people to, all right, I was struggling with these tech issues. Sometimes maybe they are not aware of what to do. By all means, reach out to myself, reach out to Alex, and we'll be able to tell you or help you in terms of how you could navigate things. So please, there's no reason for you not to be able to get all of this done. Thank you very much. Yes, and that's a picture. That's a nice photo of our MBA class. Our MBA class, what we normally would have, that's a masterclass session. That was at the end of our last masterclass session for the year, which we did in December. So that's a picture of it that was presented by Professor Ahmed, who's a visiting professor. I think that was around sustainability. So we'll continue to say, as part of our way of delivery, learning, teaching at Chester Business School, University of Chester, what we do is we tend to ensure that our programs are not just only what was shown to you. Okay, we give you more. And how do we do that? The masterclass session is an example of that. So what we do is most of us engage with industry experts. All our academics engage with industry experts. We engage with professional bodies. We engage with new regulations, new policies. And by doing this, we are able to think about the future. So what that means is, even if you've registered and we already have our course modules that have been shown to you at the beginning, so these are the modules you're going to do, and something new comes up, it could be, for example, something that the government is passionate about, something that the world is passionate about, because we cannot just create a new module, or something that the sector or industries are passionate about. What we do, we develop master classes to complement our existing programs. And these master classes are always looking into the future. Remember, what we say here is we're working hard to ensure that we future-proof you, make sure that you're able to deal with situations that the future is going to bring in front of you. You're able to address them. So we make sure that you have the right skills, the employable skills that will help you deal with things that has to do with the future. So the masterclass is one of those sessions that we do bring in to do that. And students find that really valuable, and students tend to engage with that. So every term or every academic year, you find that our master sessions are being listed, and we tend to bring in new topics. It could be something on sustainability, it could be something on ambidexterity, it could be something on resilience, something that would just help students gain more skills. And that has been really, really embraced by our students, and there have been lots of positive comments from that. And we ensure that people that come in to deliver it are people that are experts in that sector. So it could be people who are researchers, who are well-known academics, who are coming from industry. Again, lots of interesting stuff do happen. So that's one picture. See everyone smiling after that session. A lot of people trying to. So it's in the MBA program, like in our other program. Yeah, there's time for work, and there's also time for us to smile, come together, and have fun while we learn. So that was one of those pictures. I thought I'd share that with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Before going to the next slide, I want to bring an important question to the screen from Aruba. He's asking, will it be okay to do quiz 2 after weeks or days once it's released? How long will I have access to the Moodle? And the answer also written on the comments, but I just want to bring the answer to the screen for other participants, other attendees as well. Registration closes soon. So if you are registered, then you will have plenty of time to complete both quizzes and the short exit survey to access the digital certificate. Quiz 2 and the survey will be available soon. So Aruba, if you are already registered, then it's fine. You will have plenty of time to complete the quiz and receive your certificate. And yes, as we mentioned, we have 8 sessions in Micro MBA, and we have different learning outcomes for each of them. So some of them are focusing on developing new thinking skills or understanding the characters of leadership, implementing sustainable business practices, or master financial decision making by understanding financial theories and global markets, or optimizing supply chain operations, or applying key marketing theories and models. Today's session is about digitalization and digital transformation. So the learning outcome of today's session is about mostly leading digital transformation by leveraging emerging technologies while developing data-driven strategies that drive innovation. So in today's world, data means everything. So is important as important as capital, as money, as budget, because if you have the big data and if you know how to use that big data, how to process that data, your company, you will have the power to lead the market, to lead the digital technology. So that's why today's session is very important, and today's learning outcome is mostly focusing on leading the digital transformation by leveraging emerging technologies. So this is the timeline of the Micro MBA program. So we started on 16th of October with the introduction and welcome session by Alex, by Trevor, and by me. And the second session, we had the second session by Kurt Allman at the beginning of November, and middle of November, we had the third session by Professor Kirsty Simpson. It was about leadership and organizational culture. And after that, we had it in late November, we had Professor Juliana Powell-Turner. It was about organizational sustainability. And then we had Dr. David Ekoye about finance. And then we had in mid-December, we had another session about operations. And then previous session was about marketing by Professor Morvan McCarn. And today's session, the great final, is going to be about digital transformation by Dr. Alex Fenton. As we mentioned previously, all the sessions are recorded and available on Moodle page. So if you missed them, or if you want to rewatch them, you can always go to the Moodle page and watch them again. So today's session, we will conclude the series with digital transformation by Dr. Alex Fenton. Alex is the Associate Dean of International at Chester Business School, University of Chester. Hello, Alex. Welcome to the stage. Welcome to the screen.
Hi, Gosda. Hi, Trevor.
Hi.
So Alex's session is about building organizations that are both people-focused and data-driven, as the data is so important in today's world. So in his session, we will explore how cutting-edge technologies can be applied in real-world business scenarios, and the importance of achieving digital maturity by developing data-driven strategies while prioritizing people. So the session will also guide you on a transformative journey toward digital excellence, showing how to integrate technology effectively to enhance decision-making and drive success in today's fast-changing environment. So, Alex, we are so happy to have you today as our speaker. So the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Costa. Okay, so welcome everybody, and thanks. It's a privilege to be doing the final session of our micro MBA, and obviously the topic of today is strategic digital transformation on session 8. So the learning outcomes would just kind of start off thinking about what is digital transformation, because I'm sure everybody's got their own in their own mind. People understand what digital is and people understand what transformation is. But when you put the two together, what does that mean? So we're going to try and unpack that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about leading digital transformation by leveraging emerging technologies and developing strategies that drive innovation. Because these things aren't just about technology. The people aspect is super important, and we're going to be emphasizing that as well. So we've just, during COVID, we published a first edition of our strategic digital transformation, a results-driven approach book. And we didn't know COVID was coming along at the time. And we were talking about these kind of, disruptive landscapes and how volatile, the environment was. And obviously with the pandemic, it became even more volatile and unpredictable. And we were thrust, into to adopt technology much faster than would have normally. The cliche, I suppose, was that organizations had to take on 10 years worth of digital transformation in order to cope with the move into online and the pandemic. We didn't know that was coming along, but obviously so many years later we've had been invited to produce a second edition of this book, and that will be out in a few months. You can see what the cover's going to look like there, and it's myself, my colleagues Gordon Fletcher, Marie Griffiths, Alexi Hines and Anna Cruz, and then a number of brilliant academics and industry professionals coming together on this topic as well. So we're really proud of that. So in terms of what is digital transformation, I mean, we kind of define these things as organizational projects that use digital technology to produce expected changes, because organizations generally struggle to understand these threats and opportunities for digital transformation and the far wider implications of those projects. And all digital transformations are change programs that change is ongoing. So the idea that you can go through a digital transformation program and then there you are, you've been transformed. It doesn't work like that. It's ongoing. Okay. It's sometimes more challenging as well for what you might describe as traditional organizations to digitally transform. Change is quite hard. and it's sometimes easier to enter the market with a new technology-based idea than it is to actually transform. But equally, all organizations are in a similar boat. You know, digital transformation is important, and the people aspect of that is critical as well. So what is digital transformation? We've got a definition there from that original edition 1 of our book, and enabling creation of data-driven and people-focused organizations. So as Gosda was saying earlier, the use of data, incredibly important, but don't forget about the people aspect. And that's reflected on the cover there as well, about people, connections, and data. So the next question then is, well, why do it? You know, I mean, you know, obviously there are advantages and disadvantages to all these things, but why would you build a case to be doing this, and why is it important? Well, there's a diagram in the book, and it kind of outlines this idea of people and data and all the different benefits of doing that. So it might be, for example, USPs, which you know, creating these kind of unique prospects and unique selling points and so forth as well, and differentiating your products and services from the next one through the use of data and understanding that. It might be to create new solutions. It might be to create more value. It might be to create and tailor solutions to individuals through data. It might be for innovation or improving aspects of the business, or streamlining or reducing costs. We've talked in previous weeks about the importance of data and sustainability. Last week we were talking about marketing as well. So this whole digital transformation, data, technology piece combined with people is critical to all of those areas that we've talked about in the previous 7 weeks, in terms of your strategy, in terms of leadership, marketing, sustainability, and finance as well. And how do we approach digital transformation? Well, there's a range of approaches to that. We've developed this small model here, which might be useful thinking about how to do digital transformation, and we call this HINGE, and it stands for horizon scanning. You know, constantly kind of looking at what's happening in the landscape. You know, reading news items, reading LinkedIn, going to industry events online and offline, and seeing what's happening, looking at what your competitors are doing. Internal audits, so seeing what is going on internally. You know, how could, you know, processes, you know, benefit from a more innovative or data-driven approach. Thinking about new models, so we're always thinking about kind of new products, new services, things that could enhance the business. Gap analysis, so thinking about where the gaps are in the industry, or what the organization's doing, and then evaluation of the options. So it's a constant, you'll notice it's a circular process that is ongoing, basically. And that's one way to think about digital transformation within your organization on an ongoing basis. Now, as I mentioned before, you know, people are a massive aspect of all these things, but equally the technologies and the H for horizon scanning and HINGE is really important as well. So understanding what technologies and data are out there, and which technologies can produce useful data is also critical. So there's a little diagram there on the screen which outlines some of these technologies, from the Internet of Things, smartphone apps, beacons, which are the kind of little devices which could be placed in buildings to allow you to monitor things like you know, crowds, or you know, giving live real-time information within events, or directly to smartwatches and smartphones. 3D printing, we know a little bit about now, is improving to, you know, allow us to create some you know, objects which you couldn't create with traditional methods, and even large-scale 3D printing like bridges and architecture. Virtual and augmented reality have obviously been on the around for a long time, and are starting to come to fruition now. If you look at Facebook's move towards Meta, and obviously Meta Quest and so forth, and obviously Apple's Vision Pro device coming out soon. Social media has been around for a long time and continues to live kind of iterate and move, you know, towards new interesting platforms and channels, which obviously creates really valuable data for organizations. Blockchain is the kind of underpinning open access database that's the foundation for things like cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Artificial intelligence, AI, we've heard a lot about recently. Again, has been around for a long time, but it's really started to come onto the radar now of a lot of organizations, and we'll come back to that in a short while. And then cloud computing, obviously the ability to be able to use the internet to deliver software and storage and so forth as well. So lots of different technologies to be kind of mindful of. And then on the bottom right there, we've got this idea of kind of other technologies, because in terms of horizon scanning, there are always other things that could be useful to organizations to keep an eye on the developments in those areas. So thinking about all this stuff from a strategic point of view, because we are talking about strategic digital transformation here, we've got a very simple organizational digital maturity model here, which we've published both in the digital marketing books that we've produced. There's a third edition book out with Heinz et al. At the minute, featuring that model, and then we've adapted that model further for the digital transformation book. But it's at its simplest. This is split into these 5 levels, starting at level 0, where organizations or aspects of those organizations are non-digital. It seems to be increasingly difficult now to think about organizations that are completely non-digital, certainly within the the West, the global North. But then if you think about global audiences, we've got colleagues working in rural Africa where there's no connectivity, for example. There might be organizations doing that. And equally, even here in the UK, we visit companies that still have paper-based record systems, for example. So we always say that you're only as your level is really at the lowest point. So if you're you're still running a paper-based record system, for example, it doesn't link into the rest of your organization, then that will probably be classed as a level 0. As we move up, this idea of level 1 is presence, is having some type of digital activity. So it might be that your paper-based record system becomes an Excel spreadsheet on somebody's computer or an Access database. So it's some type of presence, but it's only when you start to move up to level 2 where you've got this more kind of E, or what stands for kind of electronic engagement. So maybe then the Excel spreadsheet becomes like a OneDrive Excel file, or some kind of shared database between the organization, or a cloud shared document, for example. It's only when we start to move up to level 3 we get this integral idea where this idea of, we call it kind of interoperability. So the idea that different systems can be talking to each other, workflows can be streamlined, etc. So we can get access to that data becomes visualized. So we think about level 3 types of organizations that perhaps enter the market at that point. So your Ubers, for example, could not exist without smartphones, the internet, GPS, those types of technologies. So as I said, it can be quite more challenging for traditional organizations that have been non-digital or have been a kind of low volume, like a traditional taxi firm, for example, that just works with just a telephone, for example, might find it more difficult to digitally transform than a taxi business that starts off with being kind of digital first, if that makes sense. So it's not impossible, but we've seen examples over time, haven't we, of organizations that were unable to change their business model. We see a lot of shops that have shut down, for example, on the high street because of the shift in consumer buying towards e-commerce and so forth as well. So people can buy things online, so therefore they don't necessarily need to go into the store. So how do those organizations then digitally transform? Is it just that they need to open an e-commerce shop, or is it that they need to be looking at a holistic experience of what their customers are interested in? So that's the digital maturity model. Level 4 being the future. We never quite get to the future. It's always an aspirational thing. So even if you are a level 3, integrated organization, you should be always looking to transform, always looking to horizon scan, and always looking towards the future. Okay, so a few examples just to kind of wrap this one up. So there's a few organizations that that I've been working with over the years that have really impressed me in terms of the way they've digitally transformed or entered the market using technology. One example here is an organisation from Manchester called Resil, who are using virtual reality and immersive technologies within the sector of sport. So they were produced a really cutting edge software to be used with VR headsets, which was allowing sports clubs to enhance kind of players' training, come back from recovery of injury, etc., and preparing players for situations that you couldn't really do with a normal training session, etc. So that's been hugely successful with kind of elite sporting clubs. But during COVID, again, they started to expand, digitally transform, look at the business model, and you can see at the top there, they've got solutions for business, solutions for teams, and then solutions for individuals as well. So using similar philosophies to produce, game-based scenarios and things for football fans and sports fans to be able to actually try out through using the VR headsets and other technologies. The second one is, we talked a lot about AI, and I'm sure Trevor and I will come back to this in the next section. But we're looking at different examples of how large and small businesses are using artificial intelligence. For example, there was a survey by a British Chamber of Commerce, though, found that 48% of 700 small to medium-sized businesses have no plans to use AI, and it was rising to 58% for customer-facing businesses. So there does seem to be a little bit of a bottleneck, or a bit of misunderstanding about how these technologies could be applied. But there is an example here of an organisation called Allcasting, which is using AI-powered platforms for virtual auditions and talent discovery, and reshaping the way in which new talent is found, auditioned, and cast. Looking at new AI-powered search systems that allow them to promote diversity and inclusivity in the talent industry. So again, creating a unique selling point using these technologies and helping them stand out from the crowd, whilst fulfilling, their goals in terms of, being more diverse. And then the final one's an example from a project which I've had the pleasure to work on, and that was using smartphones, social media, and wearable technologies like Apple Watches and Fitbits and so forth as well. So this was an intervention with a couple of sports clubs, Salford Red Devils, the rugby league side, and Rangers Football Club up in Scotland. And what we did is created branded fitness apps for fans, so that worked with either a smartphone or different types of wristband. These clubs are really interested in working with fans to kind of solve challenges around what we call sedentary lifestyles. So heart disease, diabetes being big killers in the UK, and particularly in deprived areas in the north and in Scotland as well. So this intervention was aimed at empowering citizens through data, allowing them to interact with other fans within the club, tracking the walking, running through different devices or none, just through a simple app. And then on the right hand side, you see a couple of Rangers players helping us to promote that through social media as well. So that's obviously a key way in which to reach those audiences. So that project's ongoing. We call it white label, so it could be rebrandable into the brand of any organisation with some type of duty of care for its kind of fans, customers, stakeholders, their kind of physical and mental well-being. And obviously that's, again, a technology-enabled project where the data's critical as well, to allow us to, to empower people to use that data and get hold of it, but also for us to use that data and understand how that system's being used. And that, Trevor, is it. Thank you so much for that. So obviously the whirlwind taster there, Trevor. But I'd ask, obviously, the audience, if anybody has got any questions, please do put that into the chat, and look forward to discussing this interesting topic with you, Trevor.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Alex. I think that was really, really insightful. I was like really pulled into that session big time. So thank you for that. I think there's a lot to learn here. I first of all want to see if we've got any comments or any questions. All right, before the questions will start coming in or rolling in, I'll just ask, thank you again for this. I just want to ask a question. I know you've talked about some organizations. You did provide some examples in terms of organizations that were able to get into digital and transformation, quite successful. Can you share probably what are the sort of challenges that these organizations do face when they're trying to balance data driven, being data driven and at the same time being people focused?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I suppose we could use the FanFit as an example there of some of the challenges to kind of implementing some of these technologies. If you look at Rangers Football Club as an example, and their Rangers Charity Foundation, obviously they've got those goals there to try and to engage with fans and try to improve physical and mental well-being. So they were running working with a scheme with the Scottish Charity Foundation Trust on a physical activity for fans. So fans would come in, train within the club for a period. But then what we're finding through the data is that that motivation was starting to drop off. They were starting to lose contact with the people. They'd start to like the connection with people and the motivation and the competition would kind of dropped off after the end of the program. So I suppose the idea was that we would be able to keep that conversation going, keep the competition going by implementing something like FanFit. And the idea was kind of empowering those citizens through data effectively. So they could keep that connection going with different people and see, what the activity had been. And we found, through the data we collected, so that's the analytics through the app, analytics through the website, analyzing social media comments. We ran some focus groups and interviews just to understand, what was going through fans' minds and understand their motivations. And it's interesting because some of these fans, the motivation was to be the best, to be number one, to be in the top 10 of all fans, these kind of ultra marathon runners. Other ones were just kind of, they had just creating like a private league to try and kind of top that and beat the friends and have a bit of banter around it. And other ones just wanted to be seen to be not dropping off and just so that people wouldn't think they were being lazy. Yeah. And then other people were motivated by prizes and things like that as well. So the kind of a long answer to your question, Trevor, but I think this idea about, getting people involved, like a user-centered design idea, that kind of people focus and working with those people and those fans, and obviously all the data behind that project, empowering fans to own that and visualize it. You can see there's some of the visuals in the middle there, but obviously in the background, it's collecting other qualitative and quantitative data and understanding, what's the, how to, you move this forward, if that makes sense. Taking on board that fan feedback and so forth, and trying to make that product as good as we can make it. So in terms of being, people focused, data driven, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's working with the staff, working with the fans, working with stakeholders, making sure we're joining dots up, making sure we're using that data, visualizing that data. I think David Acquire was calling this kind of prescriptive analytics as well, and trying to visualize that as well. Does that answer your question, Trevor?
Yes, absolutely. That's fine. I think you did provide a lot of information there. Before my next question, we've got a question from Aniek Beno, if we can put that up on screen.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, I'm asking a question here. Hi, Dr. Alex. One of the challenges I notice in organizations trying to go digital are the people involved, especially where there's limited knowledge. How do we get these individuals up to speed?
That's a great question, isn't it? I think that's critical, isn't it? I think the leadership of the people within those organizations, and obviously the employees as well, are critical. I mean, you might argue for some of the organizations that I mentioned that have gone bust over time, because some technology kind of replaced some aspects of the business or disrupted the market, that perhaps they weren't in that position of, that concept of hinge that I mentioned before, of horizon scanning and looking for gaps or some equivalent, that they weren't in that position to do that. So in terms of this limited knowledge, how do we get these individuals up to speed? I think we've got to look at the obviously in terms of when you're hiring individuals, we've got to make sure that we're hiring the right people in the first place. And then for those individuals that have been with the organisation for quite a long time, and I suppose we've seen different approaches, aren't we, from organisations? In an ideal world, you should be able to reskill, train individuals. It was interesting when we published the first edition of the digital transformation book. I got an email from a lady in South Africa saying that they just digitalized the particular process, and now she had 10 employees that didn't have a function to do because they were doing manual input. She said, "What do I do about it?" And I was like, well, it's difficult to say without knowing the context of your organization. But really, with those employees, they should be reskilled. They should be, do what humans are good at, which is dealing with other humans and get away from the desk and start dealing more with customers and so forth. But if she's asking that question after that process has been changed, then it's possibly a little bit too late, and then the net result of that then, of course, is that if those people don't have a job, then they might have to move on to another organization. So the limited knowledge bit, I think if you are in a position where you've got limited knowledge, then it's going to be difficult to come back from that at times. But you've got to start embracing things. You've got to start hiring people within the organization or outside the organization. I mean, for example, Trevor, working with universities is a really good way to kind of upskill and grow. We can get access to funding like knowledge transfer partnerships, for example. So organizations come to us and go, listen, we know there's something in this. How do we do it? How do we embed that knowledge? So they might work with consultants, they might work with freelancers, but equally they might work with an organization like a university to sort of embed that in there. So getting individuals up to speed is a really interesting one. And I think obviously that company culture, the leadership, the training aspects of it are all critical. Is that okay, Trevor?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. There's another question here. I know there's a follow-up question from Annette Meno, but we've got one from Maswell in Kenya. If we can put that up. Maswell,
yep,
yes.
Screen.
Put it on screen, yes, good. So in the digital maturity model, why is there a visual gap between level 4, the future, and level 3, 2 and 1, and level 3, 2 and 1, and level 0, non-digital? Is there a significant reason for this? Also, what are the biggest challenges regarding resistance to change in organizations, and how do change agents like yourself deal with them?
Another great pair of questions there from Maxwell. So that's really well observed there, Max. So the visual gap there is because level 4, the future, is something that you never actually reach. So it's with level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, you can obviously move between those levels, but level 4, you never actually, it's an aspirational thing. So you couldn't say, for example, Uber or a level 4 company, they're not, the technologies that are implemented, the data they use is at level 3. So level 4 is aspirational. So that gap there, Max, just indicates that you can never actually reach level 4, if that makes sense. And then secondly, you're asking about the biggest challenges regarding resistance to change in organizations and how do change agents like ourselves deal with them. So I think it depends on the organization, Max. I think obviously, a key challenge, around this is the people challenge more than anything. And, a lot of digital transformations or technology projects fail, not necessarily on the technology, but it's the people aspects within them. So that's key, having the right people, the right culture, and having people pulling in the right direction is absolutely critical, and as is, the communication within that organization. So in terms of how change agents deal with them, well, as a kind of university associate prof, and and Trevor obviously is a senior academic, we can work directly with organizations. We can make sure that our curriculums and our MBA and our master's programs and are fit for purpose. So we are, producing those leaders of the future. And as we keep saying, preparing those people for the jobs of the future, not just the jobs for today as well. And then, as I mentioned, Max, as well, tapping into funding and research, like knowledge transfer partnerships, for example, is another way in which we can directly work with organisations to try to transform an area of that organisation, create new products, new services, embed that knowledge into the organisation, between the knowledge transfer between the organisation, the academic team, and then what we call a kind of knowledge transfer partnership associate, which quite often is one of our graduates, maybe a master's or PhD graduate. So I think the answer to that is numerous, Maxwell, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you for that. Absolutely. I think that's what we do. And just an example, we're talking about how we make you future ready, talking about the master classes I did touch on during the introduction of today's session. And also, again, think about change management, which is change management as part of all of these. So again, really good. Thank you for that, Maswa. We've got another question here from Ani Ekmeno. Yes. Secondly, what sort of trainings do you recommend for an organization to get these 7 individuals into understanding the concept of digitalization?
That's another great question. And I suppose to an extent, this is perhaps a bit of a cop-out answer to an extent, but it will depend on the organization, what level they're at, what horizontal or vertical they're in, etc. I mean, obviously, and again, it might depend on budgets and so forth. We work with some fantastic, executive training providers that provide, short paid-for courses on digital transformation and so forth, and that will suit some organisations in terms of the budgets and the time they've got to spare. Other organisations are working on a more of a shoestring budget, so they might be utilising LinkedIn Learning or a micro MBA from their from the University of Chester, Trevor. So I suppose it depends on what those trainings are, but obviously we are thinking about what are the appropriate technologies. Well, we need to learn about those technologies within that field, and we certainly need to be those. I would argue probably every employee needs to know about how to capture data, what data is captured, what data could be captured, and then how to use that data, because there's so much data out there. It's not all useful, and it's not all useful in a raw format either. So what we're trying to do is come up with things that not only visualized but actionable. So I think in terms of your question, I think I'd start off with the use of data. Do employees understand how to use data properly and how to access it and so forth as well? I think would be a good place to start. But as I said, it depends on the organization and its situation, I guess.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think the need for people to understand the meaning, our employees to understand the meaning of digital economy. I think that's really important, introducing all of that concept to them. I've got another question here from Ravina. Hello, Alex. Good morning. Firstly, thanks for an amazing session. I've got a quick question which resonates with Trevor's question. How do we tackle the ethical concerns of digital transformation? I think that's
another fantastic question. Obviously, there's a lot. Everybody be aware of some of the challenges around data. Obviously, organisations, in order to be in the best possible position, they want as much data as possible. So if you look at Facebook, Meta, for example, have got themselves into a number of ethical challenges. You remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where they're obviously making these platforms open and making a lot of money out of it, but in the end, infringing ethical standards and also laws. I mean, the interesting thing about these Trevor, is that these organizations, these kind of level 3 technology driven companies, are quite often 2 steps ahead of the law as well. So law can take a long time to catch up. So it's not just ethical but legal as well. So ethical concerns, obviously, a little bit more of a in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Because if you're for example, working for a US technology company, you might be slightly less concerned about the ethics than if you're working for a social business in the UK, for example. Europe's quite known for its stringent laws like GDPR, for example, and that's sometimes a bit of fly in the ointment, I think, to some of these organisations that are really just trying to crack on, gather data, and make money out of it. I think, generally speaking, as well, in the US, they're slightly less concerned about giving away the data than we might be in Europe, for example. So ethics is an interesting one, and it's relative. But obviously, we've also got to think about those legal aspects. But yeah, it's got to be baked in, I think, to any digital transformation. You've got to think about, what are the legal and ethical aspects of doing these things, to implementing these things as well. And obviously, cybersecurity concerns as well. We run some really good cybersecurity programs here at Chester. So making sure that is built in. You couldn't run a technology-based organization without having expertise within that organization around security and around those legal aspects, and making sure that you are compliant with all those legal aspects as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. We've got another question here from Vishal. Yes, hello, Dr. Alex. As a project manager, how to overcome financial barriers that do arise due to implementation of digital transformation?
That's a really interesting question, isn't it? I'm going to assume, Vishal, you're talking about barriers, financial barriers being obviously the implementation of digital transformation can potentially be expensive. And we notice kind of rising costs of, cloud software and hosting and so forth. And as security becomes more of a concern, that costs money as well. So how do you overcome those financial barriers? I think as a project manager, you've obviously got to plan carefully, like any good project manager, and try to work with expert third parties and so forth to understand what those financial gains are, but equally what the return on that investment is going to be ultimately. You've got to, most organizations don't have money to waste. So therefore, kind of careful planning, as we were saying before, about kind of horizon scanning and making sure that we are doing things in a kind of financially sustainable way, let's say, and making sure that we're getting return on investment, I think are really important. But you could argue to an extent, digital transformation, depending on what you're trying to do, could be quite cost effective. But equally, it depends. If you're trying to implement a new learning management system for a large organization, or a client relations management system, these are big old projects, and they can be expensive. They can, quite often they can fail. So I think the key in this is planning, and again, having the right people within that organization and the right stakeholders, consultants, freelancers, or other partners, in order to be in that that position to be able to deal with it. Because in the end, a lot of these things will come down to finances, as you say, Vishal. So that's an important question.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think Anna Cross did put in a very interesting point to say that in your digital transformation book that you've addressed things around cybersecurity. I think that was being linked to, yes, on this one, yes, that was being linked to the question that was asked by Ravina on ethics. Yes, so this is very good. Thanks, yeah, Anna, for highlighting.
Great point that by Anna, and obviously I think the fact that there is a new chapter on cybersecurity in the second edition is, testament to the fact that this is really a really important aspect of all these things, isn't it?
Good. All right. I think we've got another question from Jumbo Joy. Thanks, Dr. Alex, for a wonderful session. For a traditional company going digital, considering the cost of implementing a digital innovation, what advice would you give such an organization?
Gosh, what a great question. I kind of feel like, Jumbo, you need to drop me a line about that afterwards and tell me what that company is. But if we're talking about from a theoretical position, we used an example, I think, in the book around, we're trying to think about what we might call a traditional or non-digital company, like somebody delivering milk, into a village in the Lake District or something. So I suppose in terms of the costs, there are so many good tools and systems out there that can be used for free or for low cost. So it depends on the organization, but just simply adopting some social media channels, or Google Drive as a place to store documents and so forth as well, will potentially be a good starting point. But again, I think that traditional company, it depends who those employees are, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for those organizations to think about hiring one of our MBA graduates or one of our one of our technology graduates as well, and trying to iterate the people into the position where we need to be, into a small company, that a fresh kind of master's or MBA graduate could be a real valuable asset to the organization, and will start to shift that company into other spaces. But again, I think just come back to that hinge model as well, and start to adopt this idea of embedding that into the organization as just something that isn't just like an add-on. It's something that happens for half an hour a year, but it's something that's an ongoing process, and it's built into what's going on there. I think Jumbo.
All right, thank you very much. Ravina says, thanks, Alex. That does make sense, which is good. Thanks, Ravina. And Maxwell is asking another question. Thanks for your insight, Prof. A final one from me. How do organizations like TikTok survive in the world of economic disputes? The case of USA versus China. Should companies have contingency plans for such cases or such situations?
Yeah, another brilliant question, isn't it? Because I suppose the volatility of some of these things, if suddenly a massive market, there was a legal ruling to say that TikTok was banned from that organization, then you're going to have the entire company could be wiped out. I mean, we've not really seen that so much. There's obviously the wrangling, isn't there, between, Facebook is banned in China, for example. I mean, I'm sure Facebook would love to be accessible in China, but it isn't, and it's got to accept that. If an organization like TikTok is in a country already, and then suddenly that government decides that that platform is banned, then obviously you do have to have contingency plans in case nothing much you can do about that if it's a legal thing. But I suppose in terms of Max, as a project manager, you have got to create an ongoing kind of an updated risk assessment for what if this happens. Obviously we cover that, Trevor, extensively on the MBA, don't we? And thinking about how do organizations plan for these things. So again, if you think about horizon scanning, part of that is thinking about risk audit, and what happens if the entire Europe decides that TikTok is banned, for example. What is the contingency? Well, obviously organizations can hire legal teams and lobby to get these things changed, but in the end, I suppose you've got to accept that a percentage of your value of your organization, it could be potentially wiped out. And then what does that then look like in terms of the staffing implications and so forth as well? So it's all about planning, isn't it, to the greatest extent, and having those people in place that have got that expertise and are tapped into what's going on and these kind of geopolitical factors. I'm talking about risk assessments, Trevor, but I suppose things like your SWOTs and PESTLs and things like that will be useful to understand those geopolitical factors. What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, I think we even go beyond the SWOTs and PESTLs. Sometimes we go into, we had a session that was delivered by Professor James Derbyshire, who was a professor of risk and uncertainties. We do that. So what are the uncertainties? How do we deal with this? How do we prepare for them? How do we mitigate all of this sort of risk? And we use relevant theories to look at it. Again, that is really well addressed. There's not much you can do. You just need to be aware of them. You need to have that sort of character, personality as an organization. How will you deal with those sort of situations should they arise? Absolutely, Alex. I think we've got one more question here as well from Jumbo. Secondly, what trends in digital transformation do you see having the biggest impact in the next 5 to 10 years?
Jumbo's he knows the micro MBA, doesn't he? And we do like to always kind of start off thinking about the future of all these things, don't we? The future's difficult to predict, isn't it? I mean, we keep talking about the future of, in terms of digital maturity and how organizations are trying to aspire to that future as well, and look at different technologies. And likewise, with those technologies there, that other technologies in caps, because we just never know what's going to come along, do we? So within 5 to 10 years is quite a long time in terms of new things could arise that we've not even really seen. We also call it this kind of like the iceberg effect, for example. So if you look at artificial intelligence, people are seeing it now and it's more visual. We've got access to Chat GPT, etc. But But actually, you know, artificial intelligence is 50 years old. It's been doing things behind the scenes and controlling stock markets for a long time. So it's only now we're starting to see, you know, we're seeing the tip of the iceberg, but I think we'll start to see more of the iceberg over time. And I think artificial intelligence will obviously be absolutely critical to this. Looking at some of those other technologies, virtual and immersive technologies, again, have been around for decades. I remember going to a Meadowhall in Sheffield, Trevor, 30 years ago, and picking up a VR headset. You know, obviously these technologies are improving all the time, and they're getting more and more realistic to the point where they, you know, you're not getting that idea of motion sickness now because it is so realistic, and they're starting to see mixed reality headsets as well. So when Apple get involved with things, Trevor, you know, if you remember Google Glass,
Yes.
that never really worked. You know, in the end, you know, people were scared; they weren't quite ready for it in the market. But once someone like Apple get hold of something and produce something, you might see a bit more of a mass adoption or a tipping point. I think with all these things on the screen there, from a technology point of view, I think we'll just continue to grow, particularly artificial intelligence, particularly blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I really think immersive technologies will start to embed themselves in our lives a little bit more. But I think just a short answer to Jumbo's question, I think artificial intelligence it will have the biggest impact in the next 5 to 10 years. And Trevor, you mentioned before about the government announcement, didn't you, from the UK government,
Yes.
for example? Tell us about that one.
Yeah, I think if you look at in the last few days, the government, the prime minister is all about, oh, we're going to invest in AI. We're going to make sure we are leading country when it comes to AI. So you could see all of that. So that looks like part of the future then. So that's why I agree with you in terms of the response you've provided to Jumbo. I think AI is going to be really, really significant when it comes to the future when we're talking about digital transformation. So I think for time, thank you so much, Alex. And I really want to thank you. Thanks, Anna, as well, for joining. And thanks for sharing a lot about your book. And I'm sure we can take the conversation forward. So should you have any more questions, please feel free to reach Alex on LinkedIn or myself. And I'm sure we can continue to discuss this. So on some actions while we go, please register and engage with all micro MBA learning materials. The link is there. Please join on, share with colleagues, share with friends, and share with your network. Take a look at other study options we've got here at the University of Chester, both at undergraduate, postgraduate teaching or postgraduate research, so DProf, DBAs, PhD, whichever one, as well as all our master's programs. So it could be a 1-year master's, it could be a 2 years master's with a placement year. We've got that on most of our master's program, including the MBA. Try to follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. If you're overseas, follow our internationals as well. And you continue to hear more. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we engage with you. You're going to see us come back again in our International Citizen Student Show. I'm sure Alex and I were working behind the scenes to get more to happen in that space. And also, we're going to be having some live events where you could actually come into Chester. So when we have any of those events, it could be our awards, it could be our networking events, as an employer, as a little business around the region, please, we'll let you know. So long as you're following us on social media, those invites, those information we put out there, by all means join us. You are now part of the Chester family, the Chester community. Post to social media as well to say you've joined and you've completed the Chester Micro MBA. And if you find it really useful and relevant, by all means spread the word. And the quizzes are out there. Please don't forget to register and complete the exit survey. As soon as you register, complete both quizzes and complete the exit survey, then you'll be able to get the digital certificate. And we're looking forward to doing more with you in the future. As a business, you need us to provide you with, for example, it could be support, it could be help, it could be partnership or collaboration, where we have knowledge transfer partnership projects, which we could do together where possible. By all means, please reach out to us. So thank you very much. And Alice, thank you so much. I think it's been a wonderful time. If there's any final words from you.
Well, mixed feelings now, Trevor, because I feel thrilled and you know, chuffed to have worked with yourself and Gosda on the micro MBA, and it's our audience have been brilliant, haven't they? They've so many fantastic questions and so many useful discussions, and I'm just so thrilled that all that's been recorded and that people have found it useful. But yeah, it's come to an end. The micro MBA is at an end, the final 8th session. But like you say, Trevor, this is probably just the start, isn't it, of interacting with people. They'll certainly be hearing more from us, and please do get in touch. So that's it, the end of the micro MBA, and we hope you've all enjoyed it, and please do get in touch, as Trevor says.
Yes, please, if you've enjoyed it, just put a word out there for us. Thank you, and thank you, Alex. And thanks to all our presenters as well that joined all through the sessions, you know, wonderful people. So thank you to everyone. And thank you to those people working behind the scene, those guys from the international department, all of you, well done to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, our Centre for Academic Innovation as well, been amazing. Absolutely, so it's been the production of this has been a cast of a lot of people at the university to try and bring this all together. So thank you to everybody for the help to produce this micro MBA, and we hope you've all loved it. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.